Chosen ones have had advanced minds since they were children. So you gotta understand, chosen ones, when you were a child, you were naturally tapped into source. You were naturally able to think of creative ways to express yourself. And I'm gonna give you a great example of this. When I was a child, my mom was in a whole my mom was in her room, the master bedroom, and then I was in my room with me and my other siblings, and we were playing with our toys and stuff like that. Mind you, I was not even, you know, paying attention to what was going on in my mom's room or nothing like that. And this is at the time where one of my siblings were born. This was the third oldest. When the third oldest was born, my mom had 6 kids. Um, and I was in there playing with my toys with my other sibling, and we were having a good time. Like I said, I was not, I didn't know what was going on in the other room with my mom. So my mom called my name, and I had went into the room, and when I went into the room, I automatically picked up the baby bottle and gave it to my mom. It's like my sibling was like me and my baby sibling was telepathically speaking to each other, and I just gave my mom the bottle because I knew subconsciously and consciously that my baby sibling needed, you know, the milk. And at this age, I didn't know nothing about no baby or nothing about like taking care of no kid. I just went in there. She just called my name. I just went in there, gave it to her. She was like, "How did you know I needed that?" I was like, "I just knew." And I said it just like that. I was like, "I just knew." And she was just lost in awe. She was like, "What the?" And then there was this other time where I was in my auntie's backyard, and I will always get these visions like while I'm awake, and I'm just looking in the backyard. Like I would always get these visions of how to create high technologically advanced vehicles, vehicles that float, vehicles that were also considered like spaceships as well. Like I will always get them type of visions when I was a kid, like of how to create ancient, like advanced technology when I was young, and I never knew what it would come from. And I was very, very creative as a kid. Like I would be building like different types of like forts, different types of what do they call them things? Tree houses. Just building all types of stuff. And even when I was in middle school and our teachers was having us build our carpentry teacher, because we had a carpentry class, like carpentry workshop, where the class build their piece of a house. Like it was this wooden stick house. It was little, these thin little, these thin little tall sticks that you had to glue together, create your foundation. Create your part of the house. And we all created our part of the house, and we made this little wooden house. Like I really loved that class. Got a high grade in that class because I really loved creating like structures and creating like advanced objects ever since I was younger. And I know other chosen ones are still tapped into that way now. And some of us, we're getting back to that creative space. We're getting back into that creative mindset, like how we were when we were a child, because we have been doing the inner work. We have been letting our inner child feel safe and feeling, run free in the comfort of our own space. And even when we're out in public, because we're not around or dealing with people that try to come at us that way. Now, yes, you're going to have random monitoring spirits and different, low vibrational parasites that try to come at you, but we know how to deal with them. But like I said, other chosen ones out there were tapped in just like that to source, to where their minds were so advanced, their minds were untouched, untampered with, unprogrammed. Like, we weren't programmed when we were small, because we were just starting to develop and stuff like that. So our brains were in its natural cosmic state. So by that time, we already like thinking of ideas. We already like tapped into source, and we're giving predictions. We're giving ancient, like, we're saying ancient language, and giving ancient knowledge and stuff like that at such a young age. And this is why they target us. This is why they target the. This is why these people in power targeted us, because they use the gateway program to try to play with our telepathy, play with, try to like tamper with, and like do little weird research on research and active testing of our abilities that we have, our special abilities and gifts that we have. And for the newer generations, we didn't have to experience that. Well, I had to, but I'm talking about like the newer generations, like my siblings and them. They didn't have to experience that. But you know, our minds are very, very powerful when we're younger, and it's because we aren't programmed. We we're barely like we're barely seeing or being fed or being trained to think, act, and create a certain way within certain guidelines. So we were able to express ourselves to the fullest. We were able to be creative to the fullest. So that's why we were able to do so much and create so much. And it's important that as we get older, we heal whatever wounds we have from our childhood, so that we could be able to be creative and flow like we were when we were younger, and get back that strong connection to source. We never lost our connection. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that we have to get back into that creative flow state that we had when we were at that young age. And that's why I said, like, when you were that young, man, we were so powerful, we were so intelligent. We did actually have the answers, but our parents tried to heavily, not tried to, they heavily programmed us and fear mongered us into going with this quote unquote normal way of living. So now we were, you know, we had to unprogram ourselves from the ways of how we were raised up, because we know it's not right. We know it isn't how we're actually supposed to be living. And like I said, when you were younger, man, your mind was advanced. You were very wise. You were very you were very creative, because you were tapped in on a level that you couldn't imagine, fam. We are very creative beings. We are very we know how to create so much advanced technology, so many different things we can create. And this is why we were targeted so much at that lower, at that kid ages, because they wanted to try to control our gifts, talents, and abilities, and use it for their own benefit, use it for their own good. See, the only way that they have power, and the only way that they have been able to reign for this long, is because they manifested through us, through our energy, through our gifts, talents, and abilities. So that's why I said target target you when you're younger, because they know that's when you're most powerful, when you're most tapped in. they don't target big adults.